All the content contained in this webcast is for informational purposes only. The investments and strategies contained in this webcast may not be suitable for you. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investment or trading decisions. Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Monday's edition of premarketinfo.com, where we try and prepare you for the most important hour of the day, the first hour. Well, Dennis, it was not a good Friday for the markets.
Not a good Friday at all, Joel. Unemployment number came out. Not good at all. S&P cutting through major support here, Joel, as you've been preaching that 1380 level here, and we are below it right now, trading 1374.75. What are you thinking, Joel?
I'm thinking these spoos are just hanging out here. They've been trading around 1375 forever and their brother. So that's going to be the point of control here. If you are just daring to get long off the open, you can try it at this area, but you're definitely risking down to the Globex low of 1371.75. Running into support there, that was a March 13th intraday low, and the Globex low at 1366. Dennis, we've already exceeded our average daily range, so for this to really be a bloodbath day, they're going to have to open this thing very, very weak and take it through 1370. But just to look at some corresponding levels for the Big Ten, Dennis, briefly. But talking about that at 85 level in ExxonMobil, it did close below there yesterday, trading down 83.77 in the pre-market. I don't see anything until $82, Dennis. That's $1.75 away from here. So doubt it's going to get there on this push, but perhaps over the week.
I'd argue with that a little bit, Joe. Just that 84 level. We had that 84.05 low. You've probably figured I would point that out just earlier March there. So I think you might see a little bit of support there. And did have a low there in February, too, around that same price. So I'm going to argue a little bit on that. I know it's opening below this 83.77, but see where it opens here. And if this $84 obviously is, critical support here if we do indeed, because we're still an hour away from the open. So I know we've cut through there in the pre-market, but let's see where it opens. Opens below 84, then you're right, it does open up, Joel, probably down to that low we had in February of 83.35.
Okay, another weak oil, Chevron Corporation. We had been focusing on the 104.92. That was a 5-day low in the 105 area. We are substantially below that, Dennis. I don't see any major support in this thing until at least the 102 level. Of course, that's another $1.30 away from here, but 102.04 was the low on July 31st. And if you're looking to sell this thing on a pop, you might have to be patient over the next couple days and wait till it gets back up to that 105 level.
I can agree with that one, Joel. I think that is your major support down there in that 102 area, so we may cut through the 103. We are down significantly, though. You never know with these down opens. When you open up this far down, you do get people coming in and saying, oh, look I can get these stocks in the cheap. I'm going to buy the dip. So sometimes what you'll see is a little bounce, but it all depends on if we're going to have follow through or not. So if we don't bounce, right off the bat, then I'd start to get nervous.
Okay, Apple Computer is down 6.5 points, Dennis. What in the world could be the reason for that?
Well, it's actually not doing that bad considering it did get a downgrade today, Joel. BTIG downgraded it. Not a big firm, but nonetheless, they're hanging their head out there. And obviously, they're citing valuation. They're just saying maybe investors should take a breather. Not saying it's not going to 1,000, but they're saying investors, that was their quote, should take a breather. Stock being down only 1% with the downgrade, so only down $6.78. Not that bad for Apple overall, really. But I mean, we've this stock, it's very hard to bet against it. So it'll be interesting to see if it does get any follow through, Joel.
I guess the only thing you need to focus on would be Thursday's low at 623.40. Use that as support. If in fact they can take that level out, there's some good room on the downside. IBM, Dennis, couldn't fight off those downgrades last week, traded down another $2. It looks like he wants to clear out those sell stops at 200.
Man, IBM, yeah, it had that breakdown from when they got the downgrade there, and it's just kind of followed through 2 days of lower highs and lower lows. It looks like it's going to be the same story again today with the overall market. Man, you almost think 200 is on the brain here, Joel.
Microsoft seems to be holding up pretty well in the pre-market. I did have a strong close on Thursday. Got to keep an eye on this 3105 level, Dennis. That was Wednesdays and Thursdays low. So perhaps if you need to buy something, look for this Microsoft around the $31 level.
They're in the news today too, Joel. They're buying some patents from AOL, which is an interesting one. About $1 billion in patents. Not big news for Microsoft, but huge news for AOL, Joel. Bring up that chart this morning. This stock is actually trading up here over 30%, $24.10 after selling that $1 billion in patents to Microsoft. It's really shocking that they were able to sell that much because the whole market cap before today was only $1.75 billion. So when they're selling these patents and getting $1 billion for it, obviously the investors are pretty happy. I don't think they nearly thought that some of that stuff was worth that. Stock is trading up. What do you think of this AOL, Joel? 24.22. Wow.
Well, Dennis, you know what I'm going to tell you on this one here.
I think I'm going to agree with you, Joel. What are you going to say?
Well, someone just got really overexcited here. 27.99 is what we hit not too long ago in the pre-market.
Wow.
If it gets back up there, I don't know. I'll shave my head or something.
That's crazy move. Obviously, our chart isn't showing this move because it doesn't. This chart where it doesn't start showing until the regular session. But $24. It closed at 18.42. So obviously, stock getting a huge lift.
Yeah, it needs to hold 24, Dennis. As I'm looking at it, that's been the high since or that's been the low. $24 has been the low since that crazy stupid high there at 27.99. So if it can't hold 24, I'd look for it to settle back down here. Perhaps going sell off a little bit. I hear they have several more patents though that they're willing to sell though, so I think maybe people are keeping that in mind. Just moving on quickly, GE kind of taking it on the chin today. That Moody's downgrade took a day to kind of take effect. I don't see much in this until the $19 level.
I'd agree with that, Joel. I don't think there's much there either. We're kind of opened up. We went straight up from the 19, and it looks like we're going to end up coming back straight down. We're trading 19.20 right now. Been as low as 19.15. I think 19's on the brain of a lot of traders here as well.
Okay, one stock. I see a 71-cent move here in the pre-market in Procter & Gamble. That's quite a feat for Procter & Gamble, Dennis. That thing has just been channeling stocks.com between the high 66s and that big seller at 68. So you got a stock here opening into some very good support.
Yeah, you do have a stock opening and very good support. Remember, too, you get these wild days here. Some of your defensive names, not that they're going to be up on the day, but they may not be quite as down as far as the overall market. And Procter & Gamble is definitely one of those defensive names. So interesting that's trading 70 cents down in the pre-market. I don't know if I agree that it's going to open that lower or not. And just for full disclosure, I do have a trading position in Procter & Gamble.
Okay, Dennis, just briefly, I mean, we haven't had a 15-point down open in a long time. We've had a couple large opens, and these are kind of sometimes tricky opens to trade. But do you have any advice out there for our listeners, just kind of like a couple rules of thumb that you try and follow on big down openings like this?
I mean, the first 5 to 10 minutes of action is usually a great indicator. You got to look at where these stocks open and what they do right off the hop, because sometimes you'll see all these things open at the low and start bouncing right away. And obviously, if they can do that, then we might be able to have a one of those days where the low of the day is the open of the day. I don't know if I'm going to see that or not. So you need to just see what happens after the first 5 or 10 minutes. I don't want to try to call it here, but watch the first 5 or 10 minutes of action. If we just bounce a little bit and then start cutting through and making new lows again, then I'd be nervous to be long. So that's the best way to play it. Is don't if you're not a pro, if you're just a retail guy, maybe sit back, watch 5 minutes of action, and then make your call on okay, well, yeah, the stocks are going to open at the low and they're going to go. Or if you wanted to buy the opening print, just be careful. If it starts cutting through that opening print, you probably want to get out. But remember, you're going to see some weakness in probably your cyclicals, and your financials are going to be weaker overall, relatively speaking. And some of your defensive names may not be that weak, so keep that in mind.
Okay, and just from a purely number standpoint, that Globex low 1371.75. I mean that was low after the initial panic on Friday morning before the Globex market closed at 9:15. So that could be a very key barometer. Even if we do dip under that, be careful if we can get back above and hold that. Not everything's down though, Dennis. Gold and silver seem to be shining this morning.
Gold and silver is shining, Joel. This is the risk-off day, so some of these defensive plays, like we were saying, are working. Obviously, your most defensive thing, gold, your precious metal, is up a buck here. The GLDs trade 194, 159.46, and some of your gold stocks in particular are trading up as well. NEM, which is Newmont Mining, one we haven't covered a lot on the show, but this stock has been selling straight off for the last month from 64 bucks down to 47.73. It's just trading up a little bit here this morning, but it's nice, on a day down 15 points that it's not down again with the overall market. So defensive name, and another one to talk about, AEM, which we don't cover a lot, which is obviously Agnico Eagle Mines. That's right near a 52-week low too. It's actually just had one trade go off just slightly lower on the day, but it is bid there. Barrick could be another one. It's just trading flat right now, and GG obviously trading up too. So those are your big gold producers. They're all near 52-week lows here, Joel. Do you think there's any value there in any of these gold stocks?
Well, the Newmont Mining, I could make some justification for, entering that stock around this area. We do have a double bottom, 47, 47, 47, 59. The other stock, you kind of just have that island bottom there at the $7 level. AEM, I'm sorry. That's just been skimming along the bottom here at the 32.30, 32.50 area. So there are low-risk entry points. But Dennis, when I look at this GLD chart and the SLV, it just looks like these are all just dead cat bounces.
That's one problem too to think about, Joel. I'd agree.
And it just doesn't. It seems like it will have this 3 or 4 day rally and then bump and make a new low. If you're being impatient, you're being a long-term investor. This GLD could be coming back under this 150 level again.
And you know what else is interesting, too? You look at the chart of the GLD. The 52-week low on the GLD is down at 140.75. A lot of these gold miners, the stocks themselves, are making new 52-week lows or approaching new 52-week lows. And the GLD is still significantly off it. So there is this gap in, and then the prices here where, the GLD isn't even close to a new 52-week low, but the miners themselves are. So, somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong, really, because there's a spread here between the gold and the miners. I would think, the miners are going to eventually start to hold on here, or the GLD is going to continue to fall out of bed. So I'm not sure, but that's an interesting spread there happening, that the GLD hasn't fallen off nearly as significantly as some of the miners themselves have.
Okay, the financials seem to be leading the charge south, Dennis. We've been talking about Goldman Sachs here, breaking through that 120 level and just chopping around. But that's starting to come back in the 115 level again, Dennis. You tempted to try buy there?
Man, Joel, I know we're coming into support here, but these financials are really out of favor here in the last few days, and it's obviously following through here this morning. You can argue, maybe you get a bounce. You had a couple of those 115, but we sliced through there a couple times too. So the low there, 113.11. Maybe if it gets down that low, we're at 115.80 right now. So if it fell another couple bucks, maybe I'd get interested here. But these charts kind of look broken. Just even looking at the Citigroup chart here, Joel, this was a stock that really could do no wrong for earlier March, but then in late March really started to sell off, cut through that key 36 support area, has cut down, is coming into support at 34, trading right there this morning at 34.03. But the real support's down there at 32, so it's still a couple bucks lower.
Yeah, and also looking at this Bank America chart, it is just, we were calling it sitting on a cliff chart, and it looks like it's about to fall off the cliff. This $9 handle, this $8 handle, could just slice right through there. For the thick stock like this to go through the from 8 to 9 in basically 3 days back in February, just an unprecedented move, or actually that was in March. It could go right back down if it can't hold this 9, it could go down right back to 8 as easily as it went up those few days.
Yeah, when you have a parabolic move up like that so quickly, like not even from 8 to 9, it was really from 8 to 10 in a matter of like 5 sessions. It's insane. Obviously, we had a triple top up there, so that 10 high really looks significant now. And we're cutting through. If this 9 doesn't hold, Joel, you're right. There's really, when you make a move that quickly, there's been no consolidation in that area whatsoever. So you could cut through there in a hurry and be down, near the $8 in a hurry. So you want to be real careful through 9 on this. Obviously, at $8, there's tremendous support, but before $8, they're just saying a heck of a lot.
And the same kind of chart, if you pull it up and look at J.P. Morgan, it had that parabolic move. It had the 40.82 low, and basically went up to $44 and change, and then that tacked another couple on there. So, got to be careful with these folks, stop, especially if you long-term players are looking at these things. You may want to be playing a little bit close to the vest. A downgrade on the House of Mouse, Dennis.
House of Mouse, yeah, Disney. Getting a downgrade at Citigroup this morning. The stock is trading down significantly. 43.08 is where it closed. 42.13 right now, which it's cutting through that 42.30 low that it made there back about a week and a half ago. There was some support in this whole 42. A couple double bottoms of 41.73, 41.70. So that might give you some support as well. We start cutting through there, then it might open up a bit. But it is coming into some support here, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they didn't lick this stock a little bit worse after that John Carter movie. I mean, you can't, spend, a couple $100 million on something and say, oh yeah, it wasn't very good. We'll just move on. I mean, I know they're a powerhouse with, their networking and the ESPN and whatnot, but the stock has had a heck of a run from October here, from $28.19 over to the $42 level. Long-term investors, you may be looking to take some profits here.
Yeah, another one too, Joel. This one's really bad news here today. Molina Healthcare, MOH. This stock is absolutely getting murdered this morning. They closed at 35.01. It's trading 27.50 right now. So you talk about a great move here. This whole year, this stock has basically been up over 50%. It's giving almost the entire gain back here this morning. They lost a contract in Ohio, and it must have been a big one because the market is punishing the stock, Joel.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pre-market low, and the pre-market panic low was at 26.50. Since that time, though, Dennis, we've been on a little bit of an incline. So I wouldn't be rushing out to hit bids here at 27.50, or if it can get above there, because there's a lot of room for the stock to go after that. If you go to the charts and you look longer term, you did have some lows at the 26.33 and 26.37 area. That was back in early January. I wouldn't be surprised to see that level hold up today.
Some of the other ones in the industry, obviously, you got your Aetnas and you got a few other, healthcare providers that could be under a little pressure with it. But I think overall, just this is more. It looks like it's an MOH move, company specific. Lilly, LLY, actually is trading up today here, Joel. Not up a ton. It was actually up a little bit more earlier in the pre-market. 40.60 it's trading right now. It's closed at 40.48. It was trading as high as 41.20. They got FDA approval for the one drug Amivid. I don't know too much about the drug. I think it's some radioactive drug. But I don't know if it's a big drug or not, but anytime you get an FDA approval, it usually keeps the market interested anyways. But we are a couple of big resistance here areas too. We had a couple tops there at 40.64 and at 40.59 just a couple days ago. Interesting that it's now struggling at 40.60. What do you think of Lilly?
Yeah, this stock is a thick one. It's only being up 12 cents on that move, so I wouldn't rush out to buy this stock on the open. I think it's having a real hard time. You've had four lows between 40.46 and 40.64, kind of trading towards the upper end of that range. If in fact it can get through there, perhaps we can get back up to this $41 level. But looking at the pre-market activity, we've had a high over the $41 level. Dennis, we got up to 41.50, but that was just a straight print there, 200 shares. But pretty much since hitting 41.50 and then 41.20, it's been straight down. So low risk buy here at 40.60. I'd cut it loose if it can hold up there. And above those consecutive highs, we have some upside to 41.20. Just real quickly, Dennis, just going back to that Aetna. That's an interesting chart. I mean, you do have a double bottom here at 49.16, 49.22, only trading down 16 cents in the pre-market. There was probably very stock-specific news, the Molina Healthcare. But wow, if this thing gets under 49.16, Dennis, I certainly wouldn't want to own it.
Yeah, you had that big gap up, run and go there from $46. So obviously, you almost look at that little island top thing happening, and now you're filling that whole move that we had up there just from a couple of weeks ago. So there ain't a heck of a lot below 49. It's a good call, Joel. Probably not much until you get into that. Well, really down, you get that 40 from that high, which was 47.58. So that's $2 lower than here right now. And it is offered down in the pre-market too. No trades yet, but offered at 49.03, and there hasn't been any takers there. So it looks like it is going to open weaker.
Okay, well, the S&Ps, Dennis. I mean, considering the volatility that it had overnight and the movement down $15, we're just sitting here at 1375. I mean, it's kind of I want to say alarming, but usually you get more volatility in the pre-market after such a move.
Yeah, great call here, Joe. We just are not moving in the many. It's been here pretty much the whole time we've been doing the show. We're just locked in at this 1375 area. So I don't know if those high-frequency traders are already locking in the price, or they're early on this. How they get on the bid and the offer and just start scalping the spread. But man, it is thick right now. So interesting to see. Once the stock's open, you might get a little added volatility, but. You're right, the E-mini is real quiet right now.
Right. I mean, you did have, I looked at some of the charts into the close, and quite a few stocks, Apple, Microsoft. There was a couple of stocks that had some major runs into the close. So, you got some people stuck on the long side here, so they might just be trying to, cut their losses here near the open and just get out. But let's just keep an eye on that Globex low, 1371.75. We've already had a huge range for the stock. Not sure if this is going to be the open. You just want to go out and start whacking things down 15 because usually we get these reflex rallies. Over the next couple days, we got to get back over this 1380.50 level, Dennis, and see if we can hold that. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that level at some time today.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either. You do get those high-frequency guys coming in, jumping in front of bids, and you have the value guys coming in. I know you were saying that in your weekly comments, Joel, which I totally agree with. So wouldn't surprise me if you do see a little bit of a bounce here, but keep an eye on that 1380 number then.
Okay, well, we'll have an interesting 10:30 show today, huh, Dennis?
That should be pretty good, so we'll be back with you at 10:30.